Hey guys, Andrew here, and today I'm going to be going over my proudest build ever. So, I am incredibly proud of this build, because its survivability is through the roof, its damage is through the roof, and it's very easy to play. It's LA hit, so it's basically just you press one button and things die, right? The only other button you have to press is Flame Dash. So, yeah, this is going to be guide number 2 of this build, but I updated it a lot since then. The DPS went up about 30 million, the life went up about 500, evasion and dodge chance went up a ton. So, yeah, this is my take on elemental hit. So, for starters, you're probably wondering why I chose Assassin. This is a great question. So, basically, if we look at Raider first, the thing that Raider has going for it is 50% chance to avoid elemental elements while phasing, which you are always phasing. Nearby enemies have fire, cold, lightning exposure. The thing about lightning exposure is this removes the need for the Asenath Chant wave of conviction, right? Because this gives exposure. Like, you don't need this if you're running Raider, but the issue is you kind of have nothing else to put there. Like, you can't put auras there. I guess you could put summon lightning golem, but like, really, you're gonna run a lightning golem? It doesn't really do much for you. Because also, if we look at, that's minus 20%. If you look, it gives me no DPS because there's already an exposure, and you can have 2 exposures. If we look at it, you see that Wave of Conviction is minus 15, and Combustion is minus 10. So, Combustion with Wave of Conviction is actually more exposure than the Ascendancy. So, Avatar of the Veil kind of contradicts the point of playing this build. It's just really good for survivability, though. Dodge is great. Raider has pretty good survivability because of dodge, phasing, elemental elements, stuff like that. So if we look at Avatar of the Slaughter, this is a great node, but it's only better than Assassin. Like, it's only better than, like, getting free elusive, and power charges. It's only better than this when you spend like 3 mirrors. And that's because if we actually look at the damage that power charges do compared to frenzy charges. So power charges make the DPS go down to 43 mil. And frenzy makes it go down to 48. So power charges are actually doing 5 mil more DPS than frenzy. But if you look at my tree, I have frenzy charges. I'm not actually scaling power charges. Like, I have no power charges on my tree. But I have frenzy on my tree. So it's kind of curious how power charges, even though I believe I have less of them. I might have the same amount because I have Unstable Infusion. But actually, no, I have Hands of the High Templar. Yeah. Okay, so I have more frenzy charges, but it's still doing less damage. And that's because power charges are actually better when you have like 1 or 2 than frenzy charges. So once you're able to get this like Hands of the High Templar and a bunch of frenzy charges, like maybe even take this, and I don't take this because there's better stuff, right? But yeah, it's just not, and it just didn't end up being worth it, DPS wise, to go for Raider, because Raider would be too expensive, for a normal player, because a normal player is not going to see even like 1 or 2 mirrors. Like, I haven't even seen the mirror, right? It's not going to happen for the average player, so that's why I decided to go with Assassin. Also, if we look at Ambush and Assassinate, you can see that we have 40% to critical strike multiplier against enemies on full life. So this means against enemies on full life, we're going to do 40% more damage with our critical strikes, or 40% critical strike multiplier. So what this means is our minimum damage to do clears will be less than a Raider. So we can have less investment than a Raider and have better clear because of this ambush and assassinate. And if we look on my config, I don't even have it ticked. So I'm not actually Path of Building Warrior. If I was Path of Building Warrioring it, I would have like click this or click that. But I don't do that. So yeah. That's why I chose Assassin. Also elusive, movement speed, broken, dumb, overpowered. Also dodge. So getting free elusive is seriously better than this node. Like it's actually better. Quartz Infusion is worse than this because it gives us 24% attack and dodge chance, or attack and spell dodge chance, and it gives us more movement speed, and we get free phasing from. Wait, did I change that back actually? Yeah, I did. Okay. We don't get free phasing. Sorry, I forgot I changed that. Yeah. So if you look at our tree here, I don't actually have any leveling trees set up. And that's because if you're doing this build, you're going to have so much money to start with. Because this isn't a league start, by the way, not a league starter. You're going to have so much money that it doesn't actually matter where you go. Because you're going to have these clusters when you start, and probably the watchers. So I recommend, if you're making this and you have a lot of money, I would recommend getting this Berserk part last, this Rage Berserk thing. I would recommend getting it last. I would recommend getting this part of the tree really early. Because this is good, because we need to avoid elemental ailments, so this gives us a nice 40% or 20%. Or, yeah, a 20% elemental ailment dodge chance. So that's great. If you look at our anointments, we went for Lava Lash because it's the most damage, so it'll be great. So now let's look at the skills before we look at the items. So if you look at leveling, Caustic Toxic, my preferred way to level is just running Toxic Rain, Caustic Arrow. Personally, I don't like running Caustic Rain after level 12. I just keep using Toxic Rain. Or right when Toxic Rain becomes available to me, I swap to it. Something you can do is you can get Toxic Rain at level 12 if you're a Ranger. So you could just make a Ranger that's level 12. Or actually, since you're not going to be league starting this, you can like just buy the gems that you need when you're leveling. Buy this 6-link with a Tabula, obviously, a Cool Rain. Cool Rain is nice, is very nice for Toxic Rain. So you can level this like a Toxic Rain character and do the tree differently than this. Or another option is you level it like an Ellie hit character. Like you swap to Ellie hit whenever you can, but it's gonna be making your leveling kind of bad. So I recommend going into Toxic Rain and making your tree early Toxic Rain. Like maybe even going for chaos damage, getting entropy, going down to Method of Madness, going up to atrophy, grabbing some life on the way, like maybe grabbing this. Yeah, I would recommend doing that. Once you are past, probably I would say, probably past the axe. Once you pass the axe, then you can start swapping to this tree. Another option is to straight up league start a Toxic Rain Trickster and swap to this build because you can respec Ascendancy. You can just swap into this build after you league start Toxic Rain Trickster. What I'm currently doing is I'm league starting a Toxic Rain Raider. I like Toxic Rain Raider better than Trickster because of this. It's a pretty OP. Avatar of the Veil is broken. And Trickster, like, I don't know. I just prefer Raider for Toxic Rain specifically. Yeah. So it's just a preference. You can do whatever. You can either make a Ranger and then make a new character when you want to switch over to Ellie hit, or you can make a Trickster and respec, which is probably less time to go Trickster and respec, but it's preference. So do what you want. Finishing the skills though. Once you can get these auras, Skitterbot's Clarity, great combo. Because Skitterbot's obviously chills and shocks. For our single target. So I use Empower in my setup, and Empower is the best setup that I could think of in PoE. I see a lot of people going Hypothermia or Fire Pen here, and as you can see, it's less damage. Like, this is 1 mil, 1 mil, 1.2 mil. Fire Pen is less damage. I don't know why people don't run Power. Even if it's level 3 in Power, it's still more damage than Fire Pen Hypothermia. Even Awakened Fire Pen. I know they did nerf in Power, Awakened Gems, but it's still more damage. And for these Awakened Gems, switch them out with normal gems until you can get the Awakened versions. Yeah. For Inspiration is less damage than Hypothermia Fire Pen. I guess you can also go crit damage. I didn't actually... kind of forgot about that gem. But I go Inspiration because if we look at the rage cost, since I'm going Chainbreaker, I need to have rage to use my spells. So for Inspiration, it actually reduces the mana cost of the rage cost. So if I go to Hypothermia, you can see it's 18, and Inspiration is 15. And so even though it's a small difference, it's a difference that matters. Also, it's gonna be level 20. It doesn't actually matter. It's a difference that matters. So, yeah. And if you're wondering how I sustain rage, we regen 3 rage per second through Chainbreaker, and the next sentence says increases and reductions to mana regen also apply to rage regen. So what I do is I have an unset ring, I think it's ring 2 that I put it in. I put Clarity in, and Clarity gives mana regen, so this mana regen actually applies to rage. So we end up getting mana regen through this, and it ends up being enough so we can sustain it. Because in our Watcher's Eye, we have mana recovery rate well affected by Clarity. And by the way, don't worry about the implicit. You can get 1% reduced mana reservation on literally any of these. Doesn't actually matter. I just put it on there just because it was the one I was already clicked on. So yeah. It ends up being enough mana to sustain our attack speed. Because of our mana regen, right? So if we take this off, we have 43 mana regen plus clarity, right? So that means, or plus the Watcher's Eye. So that means the math ends up being, I think I checked out the math. Yeah, we ended up getting 58 rage a second. So divided by 15, and we can actually cast Ellie hit 3.8 times a second, and that'll be fine with our attack speed. It'll end up working out. It'll barely balance out, but it will balance out. So it does end up working, so that's nice. If you want to min-max and you have more attack speed, you can get minus reservation on these and level up clarity a little bit more. I didn't end up doing that just because it would seem pretty Path of Building warrior-y to just have -1 mana reservation on every jewel. So I ended up not doing that. Feel free to do that though. It's pretty big, because it's pretty big if you're scaling a lot of attack speed. So for our clear, we're running greater multiple projectiles, chain, LA damage, inspiration, combustion, and Mirage Archer if you want it. Instead of, you would probably replace combustion or something. You would replace, yeah, I would replace combustion. Yeah, you would replace combustion with Mirage Archer. I only do this if I'm running Heist, because I don't know, I feel like I just prefer having it in Heist over combustion. It's preference. You can very well not use Mirage Archer and it won't actually matter. But I prefer it in Heist. Because you have to loot a lot of stuff. So I just like having it on. Helmet autocast. Again, I already went over this, but Asenath's Chant. Trigger the second spell when you attack with a bow. So every time you cast LA hit, you're casting Wave of Conviction and Sniper's Mark. I put Empower and Combustion on it just because it was the most damage I could find. And if we actually look of how Combustion works, Combustion isn't affecting my DPS, even though it's supposed to give -10 to fire res. So in config, I just put -10 to enemy fire res. Just because that's how the numbers would work. For our boots have to have these links. And that's because we put Flame Dash in with our boots, but they can't be linked together because otherwise they would be cast and damage taken. Actually, if it's level 20, it's probably too high level, or you need to have the intelligence. Level 57. It can be linked if your cast and damage taken is too low level to support it. So you need to just be aware of this number when you're making your boots and linking your boots. And like putting the gems on. You need to make sure that either cast and damage taken isn't linked to Flame Dash, or that that cast and damage taken is too low level to support it. Because as you see, this gem can only support skills that require level 52 or lower, and currently our Flame Dash requires level 57. So you'll be fine linking a level 15 Flame Dash to a level 8 cast and damage taken support. So again, just be aware of that. For all auras, I went with Precision, Anger, and Skitterbutts. This is the standard setup that I see a lot, and it works, tried and true. I have no problems with it. Both of them, I'm pretty sure, the highest DPS auras that you can get. I only have Precision at level 3, because if I go higher, it doesn't actually affect my DPS. So it's not actually needed to have a higher level of Precision. Skitterbutts it doesn't actually matter the level when you have 19. You can just level it to 19 and just not care about it. So getting level 21 Skitterbutts isn't actually needed. Anger. Getting level 21 Anger is the best thing that I would recommend. It's not always possible because it's pretty expensive. So level 20 is fine. As you see, the DPS increase is like 300k. It's not a big deal. We have Clarity and an Unset Ring, like I said, to sustain our Rage. We have 2 Unset Rings, and the second Unset Ring is actually where we put Berserk. And Berserk is what takes advantage of our Rage, so we need at least 5 Rage to start Berserking, at least 5 Rage a second. We gain 20% attack speed, 30% movement speed, 20% less damage taken, and each second, 20% more Rage loss rate. So, when you cast Berserk, you have to attack as fast as you press it, because there will be a period of time after you Berserk that you won't be able to attack. Like at the very end, for like a split second, you won't be able to attack. So you're losing like maybe 1 Ellie hit cast, or I guess it's barrage, so it's kind of hard to determine what a cast is, but you're losing like basically a cast when you use Berserk. But Berserk gives us like 17 mil DPS, so it's very worth to go Berserk. Again, the only thing that you could worry about would be that little time at the end where you wouldn't attack. So now we go into items. I have discovered that this is the best bow that I could think of. It's Shaper Influence for socket skills do 20% more attack damage. It doesn't have to be Shaper Influence. That modifier is also a non-Shaper mod. It's just easier to hit if you Shaper Orb. The mods I have found to be the best are +2 bow gems, +1 gems, socket skills do 20% more attack damage, attack speed, crit chance, and arrows. You can change this. For example, I wasn't able to hit +2 arrows, so instead I have multi-modded attack speed, crit chance, and I have the first 3 mods. Except for, actually, I don't think I have attack damage. I think I put something else there. I think I put Ellie damage with attacks, because I didn't have because I didn't hit it. So again, the bow, it's fine. For the quiver, 25% increase effective your marks is important. It's like 2 mil DPS. I would not overlook it. If you were to change anything out, You could change damage penetrates 5%, elemental resistances with some life. Like you can get like plus, I think 99 is the highest you can get. You can switch out life if you have a life problem. But in the fully endgame state, we have 4.5k life with 900 leech and 400 regen, and capped res with 76 cold, 75 chaos as well. So you shouldn't really be dying this build at its fully state. Again, 60 more DPS can melt every boss in the game. I think the lowest DPS that you need to kill, I wouldn't say kill the boss because it's possible on like 1 DPS if you have enough tankiness, but the lowest comfortable DPS to kill Sirus, I would put as around 10 mil, maybe like 8 mil. Probably, actually, I would put like 7 mil would be the lowest comfortable DPS to kill Sirus. So 62 mil with incredible survivability is very obnoxious, but that's just to show you, elemental hit can scale. So if you're making this build, I would try to aim for at least 40 mil if you have a decent amount of currency to invest. A good starting point is probably 20 mil. The only thing to note is getting capped res is kind of hard. It ends up being fine, because if you look at, I have capped res without Wise Oak. Without having res on my my body armor. So I put in regen 3 life per second. You can replace this with a resist, and you'll be fine, right? If you need a res, like chaos res, because chaos res is kind of hard to get in this build, you need to basically have perfect rolls. So you can replace life with chaos res if you get some lower rolls on your other gear. So for Hands of the High Templar, the mods that you need are life, attack speed, LA weakness. Frenzy charges and aura gems are very nice to have, but I would not beat yourself up if you don't end up getting them. So yeah, that's basically what I have to say. You can replace these, with Mercenary's Lot, because your mark transfers to another enemy when marked enemy dies. It's nice. Attacking cast speed, marks have 13% cast speed, 40% damage with hits against marked enemies, and we do use Sniper's Mark, so this can be nice. I don't know why I put 2 corrupted implicits on there, but yeah, it can be a nice alternative. Also, you can go with a glove like this. So my attack speed, life, resists. Because again, if you need resist, you can just not go ahead with High Templar. Although it does give 25% fire and lightning, you can obviously get better on a pair of rare gloves. So if you need better resists, don't be afraid to switch them out for rare gloves with attack speed. For the boots, I've discovered to be the best. Why did my DPS go down? Wrong hand, High Templar. The boots I've discovered to be the best is a standard Tailwind move speed cast res boot. If we look at the mods specifically, because I forget they combine together, this is what mods I have decided have been the best for me. The only influence that you need is Hunter, and you need Tailwind. That's it, basically. I think I skipped body armor. I skipped body armor. I'll go back to that after, sorry. So yeah, this is why I've discovered best for boots. If you are on kind of a budget, I would try to hit life, move speed, Tailwind. Chaos res is nice, but again, you don't actually have to have cap chaos res unless you plan to do something that requires chaos res. If you're farming like one thing, I don't know what wouldn't require chaos res. I don't know. If you're farming freaking, I don't know. If you're farming something that doesn't need chaos res, don't worry about capping chaos res. I only capped it just to show you guys that you can cap your chaos res. But again, don't feel obliged that you need to do it for the build to function because you don't, right? For this prefix, I just filled it with evasion life just because I didn't really know what to put there, and life is nice to have. Like, you can't have too much life. Yeah. Again, movement speed, life, Tailwind, 3 required mods that I would say are required. Excuse me. For body armor, I forgot to skip this. But I went with Elder Redeemer, double influenced. For Redeemer, I went for Frenzy Charges on hit. This is a must-be. You need to have this, otherwise you have no sources of Frenzy Charges. Alternatively, you can switch it out for a Fatal Sphere, but the only issue with Fatal Sphere is, again, that you don't have a spot for resists, and you have less life this way. And, like, I don't know, Fatal Sphere is okay. Like, it's kind of overrated for what I would say this would be good for. Because, also for Elder, I had percent life mod. If you're looking for mods that you have to hit on the spotty armor, Frenzy Charges on hit is a must. You need this. And life. Percent life is optional, but it's great to have. For the base, I would recommend an Assassin's Garb because move speed, but again, the Zodiac Leather, I think it's called, is fine. Yeah, it's fine. Oh, I forgot to say for the boots. The base for the boots should be resist that you need. If you need fire res, then you can just switch out one of them for fire res. You don't actually have to go cold landing. For the amulets, Xop's Blood is a required unique. There is no replacements that are worthy of this slot. Avatar of Fire is frankly too much damage. If I switch this off, you see it, we go from 62 mil to 36. It is a very important item. We have Lava Lash because it's best in slot, most DPS. Yeah, this is just a great amulet for this build. There's nothing better that I've discovered, at least. For the Unset Ring, I went with a standard that... Hold on. I don't know why that was Energy Shield. Yeah, sorry. 4.7k life. I went with a standard ring. Like, there's not much to say about it. I believe -9 is legacy. I think -8 is, or -7 is as possible now with Elrion. I forgot. But yeah, it might be -7 for the non-trailing skills. I know the Benchcraft you can only get -7, but I don't know if you can actually unveil -9 with Failed Chaos, or whatever you would get it from. I don't actually know much about Betrayal. So yeah, for the required mods, Strength is really hard to get in this build, so I would try to hit Strength. Strength is so hard to hit, and that's kind of the thing that I would say as a warning for my specific version of Elliot, is the attributes and the resists are pretty tight, so you probably need a lot higher of a starting investment than the other builds that you can see on YouTube, because it's actually very hard to get this build to actually function. Although at an early investment, it's actually fine, because like I said, you can replace some of the stuff with resist, and you can get and strength. Strength is the only thing that's hard to hit. So if you're coming in this in low budget, the only thing I would warn you of is hitting the attributes, because strength is hard to get, very hard to get. These rings are basically duplicates except for lightning and cold, lightning versus cold res. LED damage to attack skills, again, nice to have, not required. -9 to non-channeling is pretty much necessary if we want to have a higher level of clarity, to get more rage, to be able to cast. So yeah. For the Stygian, let me actually find the Stygian so I can look at the exact mods. Yeah. The required mods, also I can put this as a higher roll, but it doesn't actually matter. For the mods, I would try to get life, LE damage, fire res, and LE damage. This is hard to hit. I don't really... If you guys want me to come out with a crafting guide with some of these items, let me know. Because it's probably kind of hard to figure out if you're newer. But, yeah, cast res if needed. Basically, needed resist. This can be lightning, cold, doesn't matter. Needed resist, life, LA damage attack skills, and maybe just flat LA damage. Instead of this, you can go with evade. It's not the worst thing to do. You're just losing some damage, and it's probably easier to hit. Or, actually, it might be harder to hit. I don't know. But yeah, that's what I would recommend. And for the lob enchant, I just threw on something random that does damage. That increases my DPS. Farming labs isn't the easiest thing to sit down and do, But with Asenath, the ally hit attack speed, that's necessary. It's so much DPS, trust me. You need to farm labs for that, or even just buy one with that already on it, but it's probably going to be expensive. This lab enchant, not required, don't worry about it. Unless you're really min-maxing. For the Abyssal I put in Intelligence, Life, fire damage to bow attacks, and needed resists. Fairly simple. Mods that are probably necessary are going to be the Intelligence, the Life, and the Resists. Fire damage with the bow is just the only mod in that slot that gives damage. That gives the most damage. For the Flasks, Diamond Flask, obviously, you know, I don't really know of an early hit build that doesn't use Diamond Flask. My original one actually didn't because I hit 100% crit chance without one. But I realized that stacking multi instead of chance is actually more damage because you're going to have your Diamond Flask up a lot more than I thought. Because I made that build before 3.15, and I thought Flasks were going to be absolutely gutted, but turns out you can actually have a Flask up a lot of the time. Like, piano Flasks aren't dead, like I thought they would be. So stacking multi over chance and just having a Diamond Flask to cap your crit chance is viable. Bottled Faith, Cinderswell, Wise Oak, Dying Sun. Don't really have any notes about this because, you know, it's just kind of Flasks. Only note actually that I have is for Wise Oak. You need to make sure without Dying Sun and Wise Oak that you have capped res, because it's easy in Path of Building to have Wise Oak on and not have capped res, but only have capped res when you have Wise Oak. So make sure your res are capped without Wise Oak and Dying Sun, and make sure your fire res is the highest uncapped. Because if you have Dying Sun and then it's the uncapped, that means you need Dying Sun for Wise Oak to do anything. Otherwise, Wise Oak's a useless Flask. So you need to make sure that 25%, you need to make sure that fire res is your highest uncapped resistance. And in this case, mine is 25% compared to 23, 0. It does not take Chaos into account because it is an elemental damage, if you see. During Flask effect, damage penetrates 8% resistance of each element for which your uncapped elemental resistance is highest. So our uncapped fire res is 100, and that is the highest because our lightning is only 98. So 100 is obviously bigger than 98. So we are doing 8% more fire damage, 8% more penetration with fire damage. And that's pretty important. As you see, the DPS goes up 2.7 mil, and Dying Sun makes it go up 9 mil because 2 projectiles in AoE is kind of broken. For the clusters, I had resistance put on them just because it was hard to get reses. Again, you can pass this up with just getting resist on your body armor and getting rid of life regen. Also, by the way, if you're min-maxing, life regen is important. It's not important unless you have capped res. Like, if you have capped res with that open slot, life regen is important. Otherwise, fill it with a res. But if you're min-maxing, you have capped res, don't overlook life regen because it's actually a lot of life regen. 3% life is kind of a lot. Plus the 1k life leech, it's big. So basics of pain, pressure points, just the most damage that I could find. There might be better, someone let me know. Watcher's Eye, this is the best I could find. That's basically self-explanatory. Again, the 1% reservation of skills implicit can be put on any one of these jewels. It does not have to be on the Watcher's Eye. I don't even know why I put it there, because it might trick some of you guys into doing it. But remember, do not try to corrupt this Watcher's Eye if you get it. It's expensive. If you're looking for something more budget, you can get Crit Strike Multi while affected by Precision. That's probably cheaper because it's a lesser number. Penetrating Fire Resistance while Anger. It's good. Like, you can honestly just mess around with the numbers in PoE to get a cheaper one if you can't afford this. The only needed mod is the mana recovery rate while affected by Clarity, because if you don't have that, you won't be able to actually cast Ellie because rage cost is a big factor. Is a big thing to take into account when you are making this build. Soul Sliver, basically, I have a bunch of these, except one of them has corrupted blood, but don't worry about that. It's just critical strike multi with fire skills, critical strike chance with fire skills, res and life. Like, that's basically it. The needed mods on this would be percent life and probably crit strike multi with fire skills or crit strike chance. Actually, probably chance. And crit strike chance with fire skills, and a need to resist. So one of them has to have the corrupted blood implicit because we don't have a astonishing flask. For the large cluster, again I put a resist on it because resists are tough. Feed the Free, Feel the Fight, Martial Prowess are the best combination that I have found so far. There might be better. Let me know in the comments. Another Soul Sliver, another large cluster, medium cluster, and for the Talmud Shul, you need to make sure that commanded leadership over 18,000 warriors is under a Koya. Because if it's under a different leader, then that means Chainbreaker will not be the keystone that you see. So you need to make sure that you do have a Koya, otherwise this will be some random keystone that you don't want. For the combat focus, note that if you're looking at this and you're like, what the frick? 40 total strength and intelligence means the number of strength and intelligence has to add to be 40. It doesn't mean there has to be 40 strength and then 40 intelligence. So if we look around, we have 10, 20, 30, 40. I can stop counting because I already found 40. 40 is enough so that it cannot choose cold, because we're scaling fire damage. So if it chooses cold, because how Ellie Hit works is it randomly chooses fire, cold, or lightning to fire. And if it chooses cold or lightning, that means we'll do 0 damage because we're scaling fire, right? So what we do is we put a combat focus Crimson Jewel here so it cannot choose cold. And if you're wondering why the DPS goes down, is because Ellie Hit in general, when you hit anything, has a added cold damage, just base damage. So that jewel halves the cold damage, has the base cold damage. That's why our damage goes down, if you were wondering. Same thing with the other combat focus, same idea. In the medium cluster, basics of brain pressure points, again, best that I found. And yeah, so I have a budget version of this in one of my characters, so you can check it out. I believe it's called the Poison Shaft. But other than that, that is it for this video. It took me a lot of time to get through all this, but that's because I like my guides to be thorough. It has to be thorough, so yeah, this is my attempt at making a guide, and hope you guys enjoyed. This is pretty much fully min-maxed, but if you see something that can be changed, let me know in the comments. Hope you guys enjoyed. Happy farming.